I remember the day I received that calendar vividly. My friend handed it to me with a smile, and I couldn't help but feel grateful. The pictures were breathtaking, filled with serene landscapes and beautiful nature scenes. However, as I flipped through the pages, I noticed something eerie about the images. They seemed to be warped and distorted, like they were melting or stretching out of shape. Despite my unease, I hung the calendar up on my wall. Days passed, and I started to notice that the pictures were changing. The trees in the forest picture were wilting, the beach picture's ocean turned into a pool of blood, and the animals in the wildlife picture looked sinister, their eyes following me wherever I went. At night, I could hear strange sounds coming from the wall, where the calendar hung. I brushed it off, convincing myself it was just my imagination. However, the sounds grew louder and more frequent, and soon I could no longer ignore them. One night, I approached the calendar and noticed that the images had become even more distorted. It was like they were alive, trying to escape from the confines of the paper. Suddenly, a hand reached out from one of the pictures and grabbed my wrist, pulling me in. I screamed and tried to pull away, but the grip was too strong. Before I knew it, I was transported to a twisted version of the world I knew. The distorted pictures had come alive, and they hungered for flesh. Trees grew arms and tried to grab me. The ocean turned into a writhing mass of tentacles, and the animals transformed into grotesque monsters. Everywhere I turned, I was met with horrors beyond my imagination. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. I was trapped in the nightmare world, growing weaker and more hopeless each day. I tried to run, but it was no use. The twisted creatures were always one step ahead of me, their malicious eyes following me wherever I went. Eventually, I woke up back in my bedroom, the calendar back on my wall. I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. But I felt relieved to be free from that nightmare. However, soon I realized something was off. I made my way to the kitchen for a glass of water, and couldn't help but notice that the shapes around me seemed slightly distorted. I tried to brush it off as the lingering effects of my terrifying dream. But as I looked out the window, my heart sank. The world outside was twisted and distorted.